Okay, so.
We should start with Angela.
Oh, no. How about we introduce ourselves first?
All right, we'll go from.
Okay. I'm Virginia Smith. I'm. Do it again.
Just say like I'm Virginia Smith.
We're all seniors.
Okay, how about be like, I'm Virginia Smith, I'm Sally, I'm Joseph, I'm Evelyn, and we are the senior directors.
Okay. I'm Virginia Smith.
I'm Sally Hardy.
I'm Joseph Hammer.
I'm Evelyn Smith,
And
we are the senior directors. Whoa.
Wow.
Maybe we'll cut that part out.
We can make a blooper video.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Okay.
Okay, so we nominated Mr. Davenport a couple weeks ago, or the discussion about nominating him came up, and it was not really a question of why we should nominate him, but why haven't we? You know, kind of there is no one else we know who is more qualified for the award. Mr. Davenport, we have all known him for 4 years because we are all seniors, and have had the pleasure of working with him in so many productions. I think this current show that we are doing, Fiddler on the Roof, is actually going to be my 14th production under the direction of Mr. Davenport. So obviously that is an opportunity that not many high school students have. And I think that's one of the wonderful things about this department is that Mr. Davenport really opens up these doors countless times to children or adolescents of all different backgrounds, all different types, and really gives them an opportunity to be themselves, to just thrive on stage. Our theater department is very well known throughout our community, and just recently across the state we had the pleasure of going to the MTA theater competition and placed first in the high school age group. And so we will be advancing to the to SETC, which is the Southeastern Theater Competition. So that is a huge award, and obviously it would not be possible without the direction of Mr. Davenport.
Yes. To enlighten on what Evelyn's just said, we have such a wonderful variety of people in our group. We have football players and power lifters who sing and dance just as much as the regular theater people, you know. It's like a melting pot of everyone, and everyone is so welcome and friendly with one another. And I feel like that's the program that Mr. Davenport has created for all of us, and he leads us to do such wonderful things. He never puts it in front of us and says, do that. He says, I want this, and he makes us find it on our own. And that's a wonderful thing about him, is that it's not an instruction manual, it's a guide that we have to find ourselves, and he's very adamant on us getting there and him trying to get us there himself. But it's just all around wonderful opportunities that he's presented for us. We went, us as well as many others, to Edinburgh, Scotland to perform in the Fringe Festival, and we had just 1 month of solid 9-hour rehearsals every day, and it was hard and extensive, but it was just so wonderful to be everyone to come and focus and dedicate themselves to this one project, and to want to live up to our director's expectations, because above all we don't want to disappoint him, and he's the kind of man that you want him to be proud of you, and we all work hard to do that.
Also, theater with Mr. Davenport has really become a comfortable place, I think, for all of us. I think we have all grown to have a very personal relationship with Mr. Davenport, and that's amazing that we got that opportunity, because he's such an amazing man, and he has really nourished us in growing as actors, as crew members, as people. I mean, we have all just thrived and learned how to, we're so professional now. We have time management, patience, and we can credit that all to Mr. Davenport, honestly, because he's the one who's been leading us through that journey. And like all of my personality traits today that I love so much, I really can credit to my like dedication to the theater program in high school.
And back to what Joseph was saying earlier, I don't think I've ever seen a man more dedicated to theater, and especially here in Mississippi, where, I mean, like 7 days ago, Forbes said that Mississippi is the least educated state in America, and nonetheless, arts programs, and Mr. Davenport, almost for 2 decades now, has chosen a bunch of high school students in Mississippi and just opened up this program for, I mean, what he was saying, a melting pot of students, the power lifters, the underprivileged kids, the kids that have wanted to do art since they were like 4 years old, like I have. And it's just been such an amazing experience. I feel like I've finally become comfortable with who I am as a person by doing theater. I used to be very self-conscious, and now I feel like I don't care what people think anymore. I'm zany and crazy sometimes, and I feel like Mr. Davenport has showed us that dedication and passion to what you really love is so important, and it doesn't matter what other people think. He just really seems to care, and I'm so thankful for that.
We keep on saying how we have so many people in our theater program. There is a stat that is thrown around Oxford. There are 1/3 of our high school is participated in theater either through the productions class or they took intro to theater at the high school. A 1/3 of the population has been included in theater somehow.
And before Mr. Davenport came here, when he was, 20 years old, there really wasn't an arts program at this school, and he has created not only a theater department, but now our arts department is huge, and our journalism department's getting bigger, and I think, honestly, we all have Mr. Davenport to thank for that.
His story on how he came to Oxford High School is amazing. They just kind of asked him to come in like as a volunteer, almost like as a substitute teacher when he was still in college. And then the administration quickly realized he needed to stay. And so at 20 years old, maybe a little older, he started working full-time as a theater teacher here in Oxford. And it is just amazing to me that he's stayed here the whole time. You know, he is, many people have said this, overqualified for his job. He is just a genius when it comes to theater, a genius when it comes to building relationships, to teaching, to directing, really the whole thing. And so just the fact that he has given half of his lifetime to us, to this school, to this department is just so humbling. Because, I mean, we don't deserve this. You know, we're just a high school from Mississippi, you know, small town. There's nothing special, but when you become a part of this theater department, when you come see a show, it is something special.
Yes, Oxford, we have been blessed, and we're so thankful that we have been as successful as we are. But honestly, we're not that talented or special people, but we just have a director who cares so much. He pulls it out of us. We go see other performances and we get disappointed in the other people's directors because they obviously, the director hasn't forced or tried to work as hard as our director has. And that's why we're as good, because that's what our director does, is that, you know, if he's not there, he creates it and then pulls it out of you.
Mr. Davenport does this thing called throwing a curveball the week before we open a show. And I mean, earlier today, Evelyn said, I mean, it's kind of not a curveball anymore, it's just a ball. And if that doesn't just explain Davenport in like one sentence, I don't know what does. He is so confusing. He is indecisive, but like for the best way possible. Like if he didn't do that, our shows would never be nearly as good as they are. And it keeps it fresh. It keeps us on our toes. So we are always like, what's the concept going to be tomorrow?
Right.
Which is just fun. And like you get to experience this with him because he respects your opinions so much when you get to know him more, which is so nice to like be able to talk freely and say, I don't know if I love that, or oh my goodness, that's the best thing I've ever heard. So it's just fun to really be able to speak so freely and have an opinion somewhere where most high schoolers don't really get much of an opinion on their show.
And I think that's been one of the big differences this year. Now we are directors, so we take the directing class, but also we get to participate in the regular season shows outside of the classroom. And I think one of the great things about being a director this year, as opposed to being an actor or a crew member in the past, is that we really get to see a whole nother side of what it takes to put on a show. It's not just us coming in every night to rehearsal and getting on stage and doing whatever. We have actually gotten to work with Mr. Davenport one-on-one about the shows and just kind of what a concept means and how a concept will shape our storytelling. And so we've really kind of gotten to see the other side of it. And at the same time, it's just been eye-opening because he does so much work that, we don't even see. And still, even to this day, even though we are directors and we do see more, there's still so much more that he does. He is really one of a kind.
He was in the theater at 2:30 last night working on our lights for our show.
Yes, 2:30 a.m.
Like that, and it's not abnormal for him to do that.
That is his dedication. He stays up all night just thinking about it, which sounds weird.
And he dreams about theater. He tells us all the time he's going to sleep on it when he can't make a decision at that moment.
Yeah.
I feel like that's why he doesn't. He's always changing stuff because he's never fully satisfied. He's always trying to make it better, and he's never just like, oh, we can just leave it like that. No, he's always like, oh, that can be better, so I'm going to change that. That's why it's always changing, and it's always fresh with us, so that our acting never gets stagnant and dull, because he's always giving us new stuff to play and work with,
Right.
which
And
is fantastic.
Even that goes for technical stuff too. A couple months ago was the stage manager for The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime, and that was the show we took to our competition and won. But when we performed it just for the Oxford community, I came in second performance. We usually do a Thursday, Friday, Saturday performance. I came in on Friday night and he said, okay, I've added 2 light cues. And that was normal. That's normal of Mr. Davenport. Even the second day of a performance, if he feels he can do something or we can do something to make the show better, he'll do it. And I just think that's one thing about Mr. Davenport is he wants the best from us, whether that is in a show, in class, in other classes that aren't just theater. He really is passionate about that, about us. And I know everyone will say, oh, my theater teacher just cares about us so much. Well, he really does.
Yeah, I'm very, very glad that in the very important 4 years of your high school life, when you go from 14 to 18, I'm very glad he was the mentor that I could rely on outside the family.
Yeah.
Very, very glad.
And I don't feel like he ever turns anyone down. Like, if you're a person and you say, hey, I may not fit the theater stereotype, but I've decided I want to do theater, he sees that potential and he really wants to see it blossom. And it doesn't matter who you are, he really genuinely seems to care. And he, again, as Joseph was saying, never lets things just like, that's okay. With our competition piece, we did that for our season, so we rehearsed it for a month, and then we changed it to a competition piece, and then we advanced. And every single time, he talks to us about finding new areas with our character and new arcs in the show so that we aren't bored with our show, and that every single time we do it, you find a new thing about your character. And I think that that's one of the things that makes our program so special, is that I've done Curious Incident. I don't know how many performances I've done, but I'm still not tired of the show yet, because you can find something new in it every time.
We really like our director.
But yeah,
we really like him. He's thumbs up.
He
Thumbs up.
He should definitely win the award.
8 thumbs up.
Toes up.
Yeah.
All right. Should we
Good
say
stuff.
thank you?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh. Thank you.
All right.